also going to talk about stress, how it can affect heart disease, and relationships with heart disease. So there's a lot more, it's not just not eating certain things. There's so much more you can do for the body, as well as things you might want to take out of your usual routine. So it's not all negative, okay? And I also have this for you, a couple pieces of paper, actually, in case you want to take any notes. So, and I have things like that you can write on if you're so interested in would like to do that. There you go. Robert. Heart disease, 80% of heart disease can be prevented. So when you think about that, it used to be maybe even just 2 generations ago. Whatever your family had, whatever your parents, grandparents, whatever diseases they were naturally having or dying from with age, you pretty much assumed you would too. And that was the truth of the matter. But now we know so much more about preventing these diseases that we're at the point where we can prevent 80% of already happening heart disease. All right, so how do we do that? Well, one of the biggest ways to do it is through diet. So I thought I'd start with that, and that's the heart here, naturally. And it really is more about looking into your total diet and seeing what changes you might need to make. Now, when they have these serving sizes here, that are just like the plate that the government puts out, the My Plate, those are based, of course, on the average person. Well, who's that, right? So you might make a few changes here and there for you, but that's where a dietitian comes in to let you know for yourself exactly how much of things you need. I think the number one thing most people are missing is water. I really do. You really need to stay hydrated. And it's not just about so you don't feel thirsty or so you're not dehydrated. Water in the body has so many functions that have to do with keeping your arteries clean. See all that fluid flowing through the arteries and the vessels sent to the kidneys and then out in your urine? All of that can also affect heart disease. You'll see why in a minute when we talk about the underlying mechanism that's going on in heart disease. They actually Flaxseed is one way to add grain into your diet. So whole grains would be what? It would be brown rice, whole wheat pasta, potato with the skin, like that's whole grain, right? Or you could take a meal and add flaxseed. Because when you add flaxseed, now you've got the hole around the seed, so you're adding fiber the same way. So anywhere in your diet, even on a salad, it doesn't matter where you want to put it, on your oatmeal, on your salad, anything, get some whole grain, including flaxseed. Flaxseed is an excellent way to do that. Okay? All right, so Tanya said oat, right? Oat grain. Would you write that down too? Write that down. Did you get that?
I got it.
I've seen people lower their cholesterol by 50 points just by adding oat grain to their diet. Adapting that change.
Well, I just know that. They pulled me out because I was having bacon several times a day.
3-4 times a week.
And I haven't had a slice of bacon now in 6 weeks. Because it's not good for me, so it's just not going to work. I don't
No,
even
no.
want. Yes, I'm substitute, raw sauce. No, I'm really, I
It's
want.
good.
Yeah.
Well, he is a social,
Yeah.
that gets the penalty.
No,
Right.
it's eating bacon, it's good.
Yeah, well,
The doctor
right.
knew it was bacon.
No. Well, eating some good things, right? Just good
Oh,
country.
yeah, no, I'm interested in that.
Oat bread?
So when you're talking about the bacon and the sausage and whatever, this is where a lot of you people are right over now first. That's where a lot of confusion is coming. Like, how much does it matter on the fats of the diet? So now we talked about things that help, right? Fruits and vegetables, fiber, water. But what about, why does it say low fat dairy, lean protein? So it comes to your meats, chicken, fish, whatever you're eating, and any dairy. The reason you want low fat is because saturated fat itself, which is typically animal fat, right? That actually increases the part of the traveling cholesterol called the LDL. We've all read and heard about that, the commercial plenty about that, yeah. So that low density lipoprotein or LDL, that's the one that's getting caught up in the artery wall. It literally goes into the artery wall and stops and holds the fat there. Talk about atherosclerosis, right? We have the lining inside your artery. Not only does that slow down blood flow, which increases risk of heart attack and stroke, okay? It also allows your system then to start producing its own inflammation because that fat should be sitting there in the side of your artery wall. So you have the fat lining on top of the artery wall, and now you have all this inflammation because your system perceives that like something that's not supposed to be there is there. When you have inflammation, that's when the artery becomes less elastic. They can't carry the blood as well. This is where strokes actually come from either bleeding of the artery or clotting of the artery, either way. If those arteries have to do with your heart, now you're looking at a heart attack. See that? That's where the whole cascade comes from. If on top of that, you already have high blood pressure, the pressure in the artery is already too high and can't handle, all that extra blood flow that's being impeded by the fat and the fat inside the artery. That's why everybody keeps talking about saturated fat, saturated fat, saturated fat. That increases the LDL, which is the so-called bad cholesterol. That's why they call it bad cholesterol. I don't like those terms, bad, good, but, that makes you remember, right? What bad versus, well, how much has good cholesterol? Well, good cholesterol. Not the LDL. Not the LDL. Yeah, the HDL. It's coming, I saw it coming up from the archive. Stuck it in it. But how can cholesterol be good? Does that even make sense? What do you think?
I know everything because of why I don't.
Like, why would you say that? Yeah, I gotta explain that because it's really confusing. It's a total misnomer. Your brain requires cholesterol to function. You have to have cholesterol. Your own liver makes it. That's fine. Who would be making something that's toxic for your body, right? So your brain requires cholesterol. But after a while, because of heart disease, they started realizing some people have too much of
Been there, done that.
No, you're not, okay, huh?
Been there,
You
done
did,
that.
how many years did you do that? Vegetarian or vegan? What'd you think?
I was like, oh, no, it takes some news. And then I found a way back to a good rest.
Do you remember the first time you went back to the blueberry steak?
It was that.
All right, so the lacto-ovo means you can have milk, you can't have eggs. So you're, so you still have some protein. Right, you're a lacto-ovo. Did you eat fish?
Yes.
Said you were also a pescatarian.
I'm good.
And
out everything, get it all put together, make sure everything is ready. Are you on diet for heart disease? Yeah, but the only other thing about it is proportion. Like if you're gonna eat at Mamma Mia's, I heard that. All right, you know? I don't know what you're gonna eat.
You know,
He had to open his mouth.
I had it with best.
So, yeah, so you can put lots of olive oil on your fettuccine, I don't know. Every time, not, believe me, I love Italian food. I don't like not let myself eat anything. I don't really believe in that. I think you just eat smaller amounts. Right.
That's the,
Yeah, so that's all. Yeah, okay. So, because when you look at, like, I just submitted this before I realized all the research came out, I would eat a big plate of pasta. Olive oil. I ate a huge plate. When you're eating something like a great pasta or rice in a large amount, as soon as you digest it, that's the same thing as blood sugar. You may as well eat sugar. See, it's the same thing. Potato, it's the same type. See that? Because it doesn't taste sweet to you, but it really is just long chains of sugar. That's really what those carbs are. That's why, you know, I want to eat pasta. So I'm eating the side dish pasta. Or I'm eating like the cup of pasta and more of the eggplant. Or just depends, right? And maybe I'm getting more out of that meal because I ended up taking it home. But at least I got that out of town. Okay? I might take my own brand to the restaurant, put it on there to lower that cholesterol level. I have one patient right now, she's putting in a little Ziploc everywhere she goes. She has her cholesterol down quite a bit. Okay? And you don't have to deprive yourself, though. It's just the amount. So even grains are like sugar, because down to 10, you know, there was about 10 years ago or so, there was like an expose on, you know, cholesterol is not exactly what's causing heart attack. And actually they were right. We went way too fast on the cholesterol kick. People stopped eating eggs, they didn't eat the egg yolk, you know, it's all based on the study called the FIT study, where people who had high cholesterol were having more heart attacks. But they didn't look at everything that was going on in their lives. Also, people who had higher shoe size had more heart attacks. So what does that mean? Nothing, right? They didn't go deep enough. What they should have seen, once they went deeper, is that it's high inflammation in your arteries, along with the high cholesterol that's causing heart attacks. So the high inflammation is coming from sugar. So the sugar and fat diet is the worst thing to do for yourself. Right? And that sugar even means white grains. White bagel, white bread, white rice, white potato. Doesn't mean never. It just means the whole grain is better. It has to have the word whole on it. It means that's better, and then the amount is better. Make sense? All right, so now I just moved up myself to the level of exercise. This is exercise. It sounds like a nasty word, doesn't it? It doesn't have to be exercise, just movement is really what it means. All the research now is showing us that if you were trying to exercise your heart as a muscle, yes, you have to do aerobic exercise, right? Because the heart has to pump more. You've got to get your heart rate up. But if we're talking about lowering your inflammatory markers and just getting better circulation, that can include yoga, it can include stretching, that includes walking, that includes doing just mild weights or a resistance machine, it includes dancing, it includes swimming, all of those things. That's really what they need now by exercise. And I found this little thing on the American Heart Association for the year. Okay? If you stretch even just 10 minutes a day, you're not even stretching. That's the equivalent of walking the length of a football field by the end of the year. If you do 30 minutes of tennis, that's for a week. Just 30 minutes. At the end of the year, that's a 5K. All right? So if you want to run a 5K, do that instead. All right? If you do 20 minutes of vacuuming, that's the equivalent to 1 mile. If you do 30 minutes of grocery shopping every other week, you the grocery shopper?
Oh,
Yeah.
30 minutes of grocery shopping every other week is at the end of the year. You run a marathon.
I love meditation.
But people in the car with him when he was driving, we weren't in trouble. Like, he was fine.
And I do it, you know.
He makes the bed.
I make the bed.
Well, that's mindfulness, so I think we should talk about
That's
that.
mindfulness, and I make the bed every morning, I have a king-size bed, and I press everything involved in it, okay? I press the bottom sheet, okay? I match up everything. I press the top sheet, I press the comforter, okay? I fold it back, and I don't think about anything except what I'm doing. Mindfulness. Okay, in the moment. And when I'm finished, which can be 25 minutes, which is a long time, to a half hour, but again, I get up very early, so once it's waiting for me or whatever, and when they get to very early, so it's a great time. And Sandra Shaw's in the background, she starts at 4:30, and it's going to be sunny today. And I do this whole thing, and then I put the different animals up, and I just, you know, some of them are talking to each other. And I love it. I really love it.
That's his meditation.
Almost anything can be meditation. If you are singularly focused on that activity and the movie in the mind. Well, why do I say that? Because the brain wavelength, or even Zen meditation, is the same as that meditation, is the same as this mindfulness. And your heart rate decreases, and your blood pressure decreases, and you have less cortisol, but it would help you immune response. All of that comes together. And the great thing about it is that it's not just for why you're doing it, how great you feel in that moment. You're now training your nervous system to go from what they call the sympathetic to the parasympathetic side, from the upregulated fight or flight side over to this relaxed lower key side automatically. Not just when you're doing it, but like when you're driving later or you're listening to the news later or whatever it is in your life that gets you on that up, side, stress or panic or just anxiety side, you'll automatically go to the other side because you were practicing. You do that every day would be fantastic. Even down to an hour, you can do 10 minutes a day. You're really, really good for you. And you can use one of the apps, since you're not in that practicing by the way. You can use the app to do it. That's why these apps are so good. There's another one you might want to write down called Relax Melodies. I'd say by now, like 300 people, only one has said to me, I don't like your voice. But everybody else is fine with your voice, right? But Headspace, what I'm hearing is that people like, it's a male voice, and he's British. So I think that's why, all the ladies especially are like, you'll see.
Now,
It has animation and everything.
I always remember your thing when we still give you a background. Okay, I had prostate cancer, and as I was going through it, okay, Dr. Cindy was very helpful getting me through some of the areas that were because it was not for me mentally as well. So we're working on both things, and Cindy dropped a bit of me like me, right? Forget about it. I'm like a walking advertisement. But do you remember your medication? And I got to tell it because I think it's so great. At the end of the day, you took your shoe off and you look at your shoe because your shoe took you wherever you went. Your shoe actually led the way. And you review the entire day with your shoe. Oh, we think, yeah. You remember that? Now, I don't know whether that's still because you're much busier.
Well, here's the thing I want to tell also. I don't know if I told you this then or not, but it's actually a funny story. When you're first learning mindfulness, if you're going to be a mindfulness practitioner, you need to do it, right? And to be completely in the moment means you're not thinking of what just happened, and you're not thinking of what you're going to do. You're not writing your grocery list. You are totally in that moment. So when you try this, they ask you to pick one thing you do every single day, a tiny thing. Make it twice as long. Because when you do that, you're forcing yourself to focus on that one thing. It can even be like making your coffee, whatever. So I said I was going to do putting my shoes on in the morning because I had a client who came one day all dressed up in her suit and everything, and she was coming for psychology, for counseling. And I looked under the And he wrote this book, The Power Now, just being in that moment, mindful, how powerful that is to make you feel grounded, and it's so good for your health. Now we have so many studies looking at blood markers, cancer markers, inflammation markers, blood sugar, everything you can think of related to mindfulness meditation.
And the magazines, if you walk into the store, if you ever look at the magazines.
Yeah, I have them right here.
There's so much about mindfulness. There's people who are really learning how to relax, less stress, Sydney, relax,
Sorry, one of you have, yeah.
less stress. Starting the day out with an even keel.
Right,
Okay? Starting that from start
right.
versus a continuation of maybe activation.
Exactly, so it's like a reboot or a restart that day
Reboot.
from all the activations the day before. And you know as the day starts, there will be assaults on you. It's the news or it's the neighbor or it's, the traffic or it's Comcast or, whatever it is. You have all this stuff, you have to be calm, you have to feel grounded and, stay there. Some of our personalities are, and I want to get into this for heart disease too. Some of our personalities are already calmer, more of a type B personality where we accommodate what's going on. We don't let stuff worry us so much. We don't get too worried about other issues that other people have, So we are calmer. Some of us might have that, but also might have just certain things that do bother us. And internally, we know what they are. They rev us up, right? They really get us going. Like a seething anger, that could, if the right person, the right situation tapped on that, it could come out. But it typically doesn't. You just hold it in, hold it in. It could be something from the past that you just know for years. That's called hostility, believe it or not. That type of personality who holds that in until the button's pushed is a hostile person because they have a low level of esteem.
No, there's nothing on you with it.
Well, I just,
They love
he
it.
did something on my filter.
Oh.
Yeah.
It was like a butterfly kind of thing.
Yeah. Sorry.
All right, well, the other thing oxytocin is what women have when they're breastfeeding. That's why I thought you would both remember.
Okay, I did, yeah, I'm thinking back to calling, neutering animals.
Well, we now know that the other two times men or women can experience
Money empty, and we've had to. I'm not there to yell at people who are sick you want to problem, what they're saying to you, or whatever, but I would just, smile. It'll be okay. Yeah. That's it.
See, the fact that you stayed there shows that you have the coping skills to do it, right? Which is really good. Somebody else in that setting, and they
Yeah,
you had the skills, yeah. So in your ER, did you have a side ER? I used to do side ER.
that was very
Where were you?
I was in Valley Stream.
No, well,
Bill would know, yeah.
yeah. My wife was patient there.
Valley Stream.
Yeah.
Debbie was a nurse.
And Debbie was an RN.
Yeah.
Long Island.
Debbie
She
was
was
a
a
nurse.
For 37 years.
So she knows everything about medicine.
She's very good at working.